What does it look like for you to show kindness and compassion to yourself when you make a mistake? Oh, come on, come on, come on. Go ahead. I want you to think about this. Like, for real, what does it look like for you to be compassionate to yourself when you make a mistake, when you fail that test, when you have lost your keys for the fifth time, when you bought that television that you know that your family could not afford right now? What does it look like for you to be kind and compassionate to yourself? All right, go ahead and stick a pin in that thought, because we're going to come back to that question. Adrienne Benton here, author of A Greater Force Than Failure, Intentional Time with God. And during this series, we're looking at the 7 ways that we are able to learn from our mistakes. This is day 2. In day 1, we said, you know what? You have to acknowledge your mistake. And here in day 2, we're talking about having compassion for yourself when you make a mistake. All right, let's go back to what we were talking about a few moments ago. What does it look like? I want you to go ahead and write it down. Speak it out loud, but write it down. What does it look like for you to have compassion for yourself when you find yourself in those situations where you have failed or you have made a mistake? Well, first we have to stop and look at, what does it mean to have compassion? Compassion is a feeling or showing sympathy and concern. When you make a mistake, is your first mode of operation to be sympathetic towards yourself, right? Or to show concern for yourself? Or is it to beat yourself up and tell yourself, look at you, you're a failure. I'm never going to get any better. I'm always making mistakes. Do you accept failure as your identity? Remember, failure, mistakes, they're occurrences, they're behaviors, they're decisions, but they're not who you are. What does it look like for you to have compassion, for you to be empathetic, for you to be warm, for you to persevere with yourself? Go ahead and write it down. Because when we talk about overcoming, when we talk about learning from our mistakes, there has to be an element of grace. There has to be an element of, I'm not going to quit. There has to be an element of patience and of wisdom so that you can have the space to be able to recover. Oh, yes. I said it, recover. Remember, our failures, they don't have to be fatal. Now, when we make a choice and decision, yes, we have to remember that we will always have to contend with the natural results, the natural impacts that come from the choices and the decisions that we made, right? Again, having compassion is not, you're not giving yourself a pass. You're not sweeping it under the rug. You're saying, number 1, I acknowledge that I made a mistake. I acknowledge this failure here, but I'm going to be kind to myself. I'm going to forgive myself. I'm going to show myself an element of grace, which means that I believe that I can recover, that I can be restored, that I am forgiven, and I can move forward and do better. It is so important that when a mistake is made, that you show yourself compassion. And listen, this doesn't just apply to you. This is so important to remember, even as we're interacting with others, our loved ones or strangers. Someone does something to you, ask yourself, can I in this moment usher in? Can I in this moment provide for them an element of compassion? Can I give them the space to be forgiven? Can I give them the space to recover? And ultimately, the answer is yes. It's yes, because God, in his infinite loving kindness and mercy, he forgives us and he is compassionate to us when we make a mistake. So here's your homework for today. Yesterday in day 1, you wrote down the mistakes that you needed to acknowledge. Now I want you to look at that list here in day 2. And I want you, for each mistake that you wrote down, I want you to write down a way that you can be compassionate to yourself, that you can be patient with yourself, that you can usher in and use wisdom so that you can have that pathway for yourself to recover. All right. I'm so glad you're with us. I hope that you join us for day 3. Be sure to join us for lesson 3 as we go through the journal, A Greater Force Than Failure, Intentional Time with God. Where can you get the journal from? You can get the journal from forwardmovementministries.org. forwardmovementministries.org. You can also get the journal from Amazon, the Kindle or the paperback version. I invite you to get the journal, journey through the journal with our Forward Movement, A Greater Force Than Transformation Lab community as we go through the journal and as we look at 7 ways to learn from our mistakes. As always, I invite you to walk with the King and be a blessing.